All right, let me take a few minutes and walk you through this assignment. I'm actually looking forward to reading these papers because in this, I'm asking you to make an original argument, an informed argument, a very informed argument, but an original argument nonetheless. So up until this point, we've been looking at some of the themes from sociology, about norms, about truths. We've looked at social stratification, and we've also been reading the first few chapters of Luke Timothy Johnson's The New Testament, a very short introduction, where he's been talking about several themes, but the last couple chapters that you've been reading have been really about literature. And so that's kind of the focus of this paper. Literature, what is it, and how does it function? Now, although we're studying religious literature, we're studying some of the literature of the New Testament, a lot of these themes I really think are transferable to other disciplines as well. And so I'm wanting you to think critically and think in a very informed manner about literature. I do ask a couple questions here that I want you to kind of ponder as you're really thinking about moving forward in this paper. So we've also looked at the development of the Bible, the development of the New Testament, the literary genres that are present in the New Testament, and the Bible and almost every other kind of religious text that we have. They are historical documents, and they are historical literature. Now, please do not misinterpret that. I'm not saying that they are that their literary genre is history, but but they are all like very diverse in their literary genres. They are all very diverse in the ways in which they are using that literature to make certain points. So again, I'm trying to get you to think a bit more broadly about literature. So there's this book and that I have really enjoyed, and it's called How to Read the Bible as Literature. And in it, there is this quote that I think is really interesting, where the author writes, "Literature is an interpretive presentation of human experience." Okay, think about that. When I read that, I think of literature and the interpretive presentation in a couple of ways. On the one hand, me as the author, I am an interpreter, and I am presenting to my audience, again, my interpretation of kind of human experience. And then my audience, they too are interpreters of human experience as well. And so they are interpreting my interpretation. And so again, I'm asking you to lean a little bit heavily on Luke Timothy Johnson's not only analysis of literature, but also of interpretation. So now start thinking in a more synthesizing manner. So I want you to synthesize a ton of things that we've learned thus far. And I want you to make an argument about literature by using this quote right here as your launching point. Okay, I want your paper to include many of the following themes. What is literature? How is literature an interpretation or an interpretive presentation of human experience? How does literature function? Okay, how does literature function? Is there a correct way to interpret literature? So, for example, are you willing to just say that anybody who comes up with any interpretation of something that is written is true? Or does the author really have a very did he or she intend the reader to try to get something out of whatever they wrote? And then I have this final question here, because again, we know that early Christians were kind of profoundly oppressed. It was illegal to be Christian in the Roman Empire until the year 312 and 313. And so can literature written by the oppressed be interpreted by the oppressor in a way that the oppressed didn't intend? And can it still be true? Okay, so I'm asking you guys to make an informed argument, an informed original argument about the nature of literature in general and the New Testament specifically. So you'll write a well-constructed and argued essay with a clear introduction, thesis statement, well-supported arguments, and then I should for sure add up here, and a conclusion, but that's a given. So here's how I'm going to grade you. So like, how long should this paper be? I don't know. This is the first time I've ever assigned this paper, but I really think that it should be about 2 to 3 pages. Read over the rubric. I'm really asking you on the communication side to focus on structure, to focus on having a clear introduction, thesis, well-argued body paragraphs, conclusion, to use relevant quotes, and to actually cite these quotes, to use relevant quotes from the book, to kind of summarize some of the things that we've talked about in class. If you're using outside sources, use those quotes as well. But I'm also seeing how well you can integrate your own words into, or these other quotes into your own words. Now, I don't want a paper that is overly reliant on quotes. No. So I want you to use academic language, and then I really want you to edit this stuff and make sure that you're mitigating errors. And then the synthesis part. Here, how well are you able to synthesize a lot of the themes that we've been discussing? Whether it be about interpretation, about literature, about social class, about norms, about truth, so on and so forth. There are tons of ways you can take this. But I think that the best papers are going to be ones that begin with an outline, that begin with a clear thesis, and that really seek to support that thesis in a clear and yet kind of multifaceted way. So I'm really looking forward to these. These, again, should be about 2 or 3 pages, well argued, a formal structure, but really you're kind of unpacking and you're making arguments about literature and how it functions. The Bible, I think a lot of people overlook this, is literature. It is a literature that has a specific setting. It is an ancient literature that we have to read as such. And so I'm really interested to see how you guys are going to make these arguments, and I'm looking forward to reading them.